Kia ora, good afternoon. So I don't know where this came from, but I'm sitting here resting because, as you know, I'm in pain. So I'm just trying to rest and sit in my bubble. And when I rest and sit in my bubble, obviously I think a lot about everything I'm creating. And an idea for a short movie popped into my head. And it started out with, I don't know where I learned this from. I don't know who taught me. I don't know how I was shown. I don't know where this came from. But I remember when I was little, because my mum used to knit a lot, so it might have been my mum, but I don't know, so don't quote me on it. But I remember as a kid doing wool art, and by which I mean using, like strings of wool and using my finger to turn the wool into art, like making them into pictures using like the just strands of wool, but using my finger to move them. I even remember sitting at the table, at the old Formica kitchen tables, when they had the Formica tables with the metal bits around the table and the metal chairs and the well, not huckety, but like horrible cold seats. Sitting at the table using my finger with, I think it was like using the scraps of wool, Mum's cut-offs from the scraps of wool from when she would knit, and using my finger to make pictures with them. But I remember somebody teaching me how to do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, because I'm looking at how much my social media is changing, how I've gone from it being all about the conspiracy stuff and my science and proving my science and all of that to giving it over, like tearing all of that down to give it over to my vision board for the future, because I want to encourage people with talent, parents with talented kids, investors, musicians, writers, artists, all the people that think they have something to offer that want to come on board. I'm trying to build a picture for them as to why they should come and join me. So my vision board is like, look what I'm creating. When I get out of here, this is what I'm doing. Who's coming with me, sort of thing. Who wants in? So I've completely torn all my social media down and I've given it over to the vision of what I'm building in the future in order to entice staff, mentors, talent, kids, investors, all of that in. And I'm just looking at it all and I'm just sitting there just thinking, God, it's all changed so much. All my social media from way back in the day right up to now, how much it's changed. Because now I know where I'm going, now I know where I'm headed. I've got this forward focused drive to create God's vision. My fire, my foundation is going to be God's creative heaven on earth, God being the creation frequency, and what I'm building in the future. So I'm looking at it all thinking how much it's changed, and I got this image in my head of me when I was little using mum's scraps of wool to use my finger to make these pictures with the wool. And I started seeing this story developing in my head made from wool. And when I was trying to find, like, well, did it come from Tony Hart? Because, like, I used to watch, was it called Heart Attack? With Morph and all that. He was pretty much like the first artist I ever knew growing up. And also, I've had a look as well in regards to what I was saying about my circus live this morning. Marcel Marceau wasn't on Muppets, but it was Fozzie Bear did a tribute to Marcel Marceau. And that's why I thought he was on the Muppets, because I love Fozzie Bear. Like, I loved the Muppets growing up. I have this thing in me to want to collect all the Muppet plushies. I've got some, but they're mostly at the dungeon. But anyway, so I have to correct that. But I started seeing this story in my head being made from the strings of wool. And when I was trying to look up how I could do this, turn this story into like a short animation, and I was looking up to see where this came from, and I can't find it anywhere. I found this lady who is the thumbprint, the thumbnail to this video, and she works with wool, she works with felt, and I thought, oh, I could do it like that. I could make my little short into that, like use that, and maybe get someone like her to help me do it. And the story is basically the story of this woman who goes out into the barren lands. She's in the barren lands, like she opens up, she's got this beautiful little cottage, but when she opens up the back door, it's barren land. And so she goes out, there's not going to be any talking, there's just going to be sound effects. So the crunch, crunch, crunch of her walking on the soil, and the, of her digging the soil and planting the seed. And every time she plants the seed, something happens. Someone tramples on it, it starts to grow, someone chops it down, and the seed keeps growing, and something happens, and it grows, and something happens, and it grows, and something happens, and she just goes back out, she keeps tending to it, she keeps watering it, until one day it turns into like a massive tree. Because it's symbolic of every time I've tried to plant something, and the amount of people in opposition that I've had to trample on my dreams, trample on my ideas, ruin my reputation, like all that sort of thing, to try and stop me from planting this tree, but still tending to the garden, never giving up on that tree, because the woman's like, if she gives up, then the tree dies and she can't give up on the tree. She's got to keep planting that seed. So every time something happens to it due to other people, she just keeps tending to it. She moves the spot, she moves position, she covers it, she does this, she does that, and something happens every time. And then one day she decides to build a wall around her house so nobody can get in and out, and it allows the tree to grow, and then it starts to bear fruit, and it bears fruit, and then the people try to get in to get the fruit, knocking on the door, oh, hey, oh, nice sounds, and, oh, sort of thing, and she shuts the door in their faces. But the only ones that are allowed the fruit are like the animals, that she lets the animals eat the fruit. She lets the birds nest in the trees, that sort of thing. And I was thinking, how could I make that using wool, just like strips of wool, and moving it around, and I don't think I can do it. But then I saw this woman with the wool felt, and I thought, we can do it like that. It wouldn't need to be as detailed as the incredible stuff she creates. I've put a link to her channel. She's an undiscovered talent, that one. She's exactly the sort of person that I'd be saying, would you want to come and work with me and make this story? The forbidden fruit, I'm going to call it. Hey, everybody tried to stop her from growing this tree, but everybody wanted the forbidden fruit. She's forbidden them to have this fruit. And it's kind of like telling my tale, but also the story of the little red hen. And I reference the little red hen all the time. Nobody wanted to help that hen make the bread by planting the wheat and chopping it down and harvesting it and grinding it and all that, but everybody wanted the bread, and she said, no, you didn't help me make the bread, so you don't get the bread. It's my bread. And she ate the bread. So it's kind of like a play on that tale, but also the story of the amount of times that every time I've tried to get something going, other people have come along and stopped me from tending to the plant. But she never gave up on the plant. She just kept growing it in different ways, in different positions, until in the end she realised the only way she was going to protect the plant was to stop people from having access to the plant. So she builds a wall. She builds a big high fence and they can't get in. But then when the people see that the tree has grown and it's bearing fruit, they knock at her door with the bowls and the bags because they want the fruit, holding their hand out, and she shuts the door on them. No, you can't have the fruit. She picks the fruit and she makes sauce and pies and all of that and gives them to the people that she cares about, and she lets the animals eat the fruit, and she lets like the birds grow in the tree and stuff, and then the people on the outside don't get to enjoy the forbidden fruit. It's forbidden fruit. They're not allowed. Then it reminded me of the Stargazer, and I keep forgetting to mention this one in the list of movies that I came up with, and it's actually one of my originals because it was a story that I thought I'd written at the time about my relationship with my sister Laurie, who was terminally ill. And I think the reason, oh God, Debbie, don't cry. I think the reason why I forgot to mention it is because last year I suddenly realised that it's not just about my relationship with my sister Laurie, but my relationship with Amber. But I wrote it at the time when Amber wasn't sick, and realising, holy crap, I saw her death. I saw her death coming years before she was ever sick, because I wrote this a long time ago. I had discussions with my boys about Lego movie rights, and Lego let you make like little Lego movies and that. They let you make them. There's no copyright for them. God bless them, eh? Because most people would be on at you. So the Stargazer is this. It's a Lego movie. It's just a short, but it's a story of a young girl who every night she goes outside and sits under the stars with her sister and tells her sister stories. Again, it's there's no talking. It's all the music's going to tell the story. And she sits outside under the stars, gazing under the stars with her big sister. And as she's telling these stories, she's going around the neighbourhood and going through all the bins and all that, collecting bits to put together to build a rocket ship, because her sister wants to go on a rocket ship. Sorry. Because when I was 18 and we found out that my sister was terminally ill, I used to go into her room every night. Her room was at the back of the house, and she had these beautiful big windows where you could see the night sky. And I used to go into her room and tell her stories, like rub her shoulders, rub her legs. You know, the oil that I'm creating that my ex-husband stole to sell as pagan ritual oil. He stole those oils, but I had come up with those oils to rub into my sister's head, because when her hair fell out after her chemo, her scalp used to get really, really itchy and peel. And so I came up with those oils to rub into her head to help her with the itching. And Chris stole it to sell as pagan ritual oils. Him and his cult did. I also had an oil because she got this like massive lump on her back. She had a melanoma. She got diagnosed with skin cancer when she was 24. And it kept coming, the cancer in her leg kept coming back. She had a mole that turned dark and it kept coming back. And in the end, she basically had no calf muscle. They had to remove so much, but then the cancer spread to her back, and she got a brain tumour. She ended up blind and deaf, and she died at the age of 28. And I had to do CPR on her, but in the weeks before she was dying, she was also pregnant at the time. She found out she was pregnant. At the same time, she found out she was terminally ill. So they gave her a certain amount of time to live. She was due to have Emma on the 31st of May, but they had to induce her, and she had her on the 17th of April. And Laurie died on the 31st of May. But I used to go into her room and rub these oils into her head and her shoulders. So you can understand why I'm so angry that he stole my oils, because I was trying to turn them into things to help people. And he stole them to sell for people to do devil worshipping. So this oil that I'd created to help my terminally ill sister, he turned into pagan oils for devil worshipping. And I'm not allowed to get upset by that, apparently. So I'd rub these oils in, and I'd tell her stories and make her laugh, and would look out under the stars. And I thought that I was writing that for her, in memory of her. And then, as it was getting closer to Amber dying, I realised, holy crap, it's about the both of them. It's the two merged together, because in the Stargazer, which is Lego stop motion, it was to pay respects to Lego, because Lego's my generation, but my boys adore Lego. Gabriel especially has a deep love of Lego. So it was to pay homage to Lego and the imaginations that they've brought to life in children over the generations, And thank God they let you do these movies using Lego, because I had to look up all the legal rights and all of that, but it's only going to be a short. And so basically, yeah, she goes around foraging all the bits and pieces to put together to build this rocket ship, because, the sister's telling her, I want to go into space. And because it was actually after I bought Amber's star, the Amber Diamond, when I found out she was terminally ill, I wanted to immortalise her, and I turned her into a star. I named a star after her. The Amber Diamond, it's a real star. You can really look it up. It's a real one. And me telling her, when your time comes, just by complete coincidence, her star's right under mine. I'm in the Cepheus constellation. She's in the Cygnus constellation. Mine constellation looks like a house, and hers looks like a swan flying towards the house. And I said to her, when you go, go to my house and wait for me. And Amber helped me put all my Halloween festival stuff together. So I was gathering things, like I was baking stuff and showing her my new recipes and my new ideas. So I was gathering things, realising, holy crap, when I wrote Stargazer, it was also about Amber. Because then what happens is, after the spaceship's built, her sister runs to the spaceship, and they hug at the door. She gets on the spaceship and it flies away. And the little sister's crying as the spaceship's going up into the stars. And as it's panning back, you see she's actually standing at the grave of her sister. So it's symbolic of the little sister, of the sister helping her sister go to heaven, to join the stars, to be part of the cosmos again. When Amber said she was getting ready to go, I said, don't forget you've got a star up there, go up there. be with Nanny and Koro and heal for a bit, and then when you're ready, come back down. And she said, that sounds good to me. I showed her pictures of her star, her real one, and gave her the coordinates. I said, look it up. That's where you're going to go. And she was like, that sounds good to me. And I said, just wait for me there. I said, but you go and see Nanny and Koro, and then you heal, and then when you're ready, come back down to me and be mine. Come back into my womb. So I completely forgotten about Stargazer, I think because of the grief. Because, yeah, Laurie was my big sister and Amber was my little sister. But the Stargazer movie is a short Lego animation. But the other one, The Forbidden Fruit, is going to be woolen felt. But they're short films. They're short ones. The ones that I want to play, maybe possibly like at the start of feature films, or to have like a short animation section of my channel, when I have like my server. I call it my server. But a lot of my short films as well, I would like to enter into like international film festivals, like like Cannes and all that, but international short film festivals, and any films where it's like short film related. Try and keep them under sort of 10 minutes sort of thing, 10, 20 minutes depending. I know the music box, our horror, was going to be a short film, but we decided to turn that into a slightly longer one. That one's going to go for about sort of half an hour, but that's the Halloween one, that's the horror one. So, yeah, so The Forbidden Fruit and Stargazer. It's just Stargazer's always been there, I just completely forgot. Because, yeah, as you can see, it's horrible because the realisation of me realising that years before my baby girl got sick, I knew she was gonna die. And then I thought, oh my God, did I manifest it? Because I always get not scared, but I still don't know whether I'm predicting it or I'm manifesting it. Because I'd never want to manifest anything happening to her. But yeah, so that's two more to add to the list. And the ones that wouldn't take very long to make at all. I'm starting to realise that there's a lot of films, especially my horror genre and all of that, that we could be making a few at a time. So yeah, so check out that Andrea Love, incredibly talented woman, or man, I don't know. It looks like a woman, a felt woman, but yeah, incredibly talented. So check her out. But that's how I'm going to do Forbidden Fruit. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō.